So tonight was the big NXT premiere on the CW network. This was their big debut show on broadcast television with a big main event tonight, the NXT Championship on the line. Ethan Page defending his title against the former champion Trick Williams. They were in Chicago, so they had CM Punk bringing out the big guns here. They were in Chicago, so he was the special guest referee for the main event. And it felt like there was a title change in the air coming into this show. A lot of people would have you believe that it felt like there were two title changes coming into this show, that it felt like this was going to be a night where new champions would be crowned, right? The new faces of this new era of NXT. We had the black and gold era, then we had the 2.0 era. Now we're in, I guess this would be the black and silver era, since they have a new logo now. We do, in fact, have a new NXT champion, and his name is Trick Williams. The NXT Women's Championship was also on the line with Roxanne Perez defending against Giulia. This was not Giulia's debut, but this was her first big match since coming to NXT about a month ago. And everybody was talking about it like it was a foregone conclusion. Roxanne's going to get murdered. Giulia is going to just make mincemeat out of her here. Her first big match. She's going to come out here on the CW and walk out with the championship. And I was the one who told you, not so fast. I've been saying it over the last couple of weeks, not so fast. I can envision a scenario, very, very realistic, where Roxanne Perez holds on to that title by the skin of her teeth. They make you wait for it a little bit longer before Giulia ultimately collects her championship. And that's exactly what they did. Roxanne Perez found a way to hold on to the NXT Women's Championship. Giulia, in fact, suffered her first defeat. This was only her second televised match here in NXT, and she has already suffered her first defeat, which I really don't have an issue with, and we'll talk about what happened and how it all went down. But, you know, you've got Giulia who's in now. Roxanne Perez has been doing some really good work. Stephanie Vaquer already popped up right on the big screen a couple weeks ago, so she's coming into NXT imminently. Also tonight, there was no name attached to it, and it was very brief. But we even got a teaser promo for clearly it was for Delta, who is, for those who don't know who Delta is, she's from the Australian independent scene. I believe she actually trained at and wrestled at the same promotion where Rhea Ripley cut her teeth before she came here to the States and came to the PC. So Delta is on her way into NXT as well. So the NXT women's division has a lot of talent that they're stockpiling right now. And there's a lot to look forward to as far as what they have in the future, including the return of Cora Jade, who's been missing for basically the entire year when her knee exploded at the beginning of 2024. She made a return appearance tonight as well. But for all the chatter about the Motor City Machine Guns, and I've been talking about the fact that I was expecting them on one of these first two CW shows to make an appearance. The chatter has been that they are on their way to WWE, and if so, it would likely be on the NXT brand. And they still have another show next week, which is going to be in an arena setting. They're on the road again one more time next week. So I guess if you were looking forward to that, you were left disappointed, but don't give up hope, because it could always happen next Tuesday. But there were no machine guns on the show tonight. That, I thought, would be one of the big surprises. The surprises of the night ended up being Cora Jade and the tag team champions, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, who made their way out to help the North American champion, Kalani Jordan. So those are the big surprises that they had on the show here tonight. Next week they're going to be head-to-head with AEW Dynamite. Dynamite is being bumped back by a night because I believe baseball. And this happened last year. Remember the two shows? They went head-to-head. It was like the big Tuesday night war. It was Title Tuesday. Well, we're getting another Title Tuesday next week, head-to-head between the two shows. And I will tell you now, having watched this show, as many of you know, if you have listened to the podcast long enough, not only did I used to do TNA reviews, back in the day, but I would do the NXT reviews weekly, and maybe at the time I was one of the few who was covering NXT weekly when it first hit the WWE network. And really only this year that I stopped covering it full time. And the weird thing about that was it was almost like an experiment. because I had just fallen out of interest with the show. So, I try to keep up with generally what's going on and who the champions are, and I try to watch the PLEs and all that. So it's not like I've totally given up on NXT. But it just wasn't appealing to me anymore in the way that it used to, and I just sort of fell off. But even though those weekly reviews disappeared from the show, yeah, you would think that there would be some people, what happened to the NXT reviews? You got to bring it back, or, I haven't heard it in a while. I didn't hear from anybody. Nobody cared. I stopped talking about NXT and nobody cared. And I think that spoke volumes. And I know there's a lot of hardcore, diehard NXT fans who are still true blue. Look, I'm a fan of some of the talent they have down there. And the women's division has always been a very strong point of the brand. But again, it just doesn't appeal to me and a lot of other people in the way that it used to. And it was very telling, though, when the reaction to, me not really talking about it as much anymore, outside of like major news, was just silence. It was met with silence. So there were a lot of people saying, you got to watch the first episode on the CW, and they're really loading it up. You're going to have a men's championship match, and you're going to have a women's championship match, and some surprises may pop up. And I'm like, yeah, of course I'm going to watch. This was arguably the biggest night in the history of this brand, because this show now is on broadcast television. So it is going to be in more homes now than it has ever been in the history of the show, which goes back a decade, maybe a little over a decade. That, coupled with the fact that WWE, I think they're bringing in something like $30 or $35 million a year for this show. This was the biggest night in the history of NXT. And for a show that was as hyped up as this one was, and for the biggest night in NXT history, I thought on the whole, this was a very lackluster show. Like, when this show was over, there was some good stuff on there, and the street fight between Zach Wentz and Wes Lee was easily the best part of the entire show. Certainly as far as the in-ring. Easily the best part of the entire show. But when the show was over, for all the people who were saying that to me, and like, oh yeah, you may have to like start covering NXT live on the YouTube channel every week, or yeah, you guys may have to move TNT to another night and start covering NXT. When this show went off the air, I'm just sitting here going, are you people out of your fucking mind? What are you seeing that I'm not seeing here? I don't get it. I just don't get it. It's not as if I tuned in tonight from start to finish and was blown away by what I saw. It was sufficient. You know how I would describe it? I would describe it the way that I would describe what Collision has become for AEW. Is it a show that I feel compelled that I have to watch every single week? Not a chance. Is it a show that I will check out to see the things that look appealing to me? Or when good word of mouth, hey, you got to check this out or something? Sure. But as far as the week-to-week watching the show from start to finish, yeah, that's not happening. And this show did nothing to change my mind on that front. And so what I was thinking is like, okay, next week we have NXT and Dynamite going head-to-head. Now, last year I watched both shows simultaneously. I had multiple screens going, and it was a fucking nightmare to do it that way. But I was like, maybe we'll do it again, this year. One thing I can tell you now, having seen this show, is that I've made up my mind. First of all, I'm not watching them simultaneously next week. And I know what I'm covering live next week. I've made my decision. But we're going to talk about this show because there was some good stuff on here. This is your NXT review for the CW premiere. It is Tuesday, October 1st, 2024. I wasn't so enamored with this show. I was, however, very excited that the Mets picked up a win today. If you saw me on the Raw review last night, man, I was all smiles. It was like a little early birthday celebration for me. And the Mets, they keep this train rolling, man. Another big win today. So that put me in a good mood. So at least that was good, at least. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you are new here. I'm not usually live on the channel here on a Tuesday, but I am tonight. And I will be next week, whichever show I cover. I will be live next Tuesday as well. So hit that subscribe button. Make sure notifications are in the on position. Super chats are open. You'll see them periodically popping up on your screen. Actually, the first thing I need to do here before we even get into the show, I have to salute all of you. I have to say thank you because, and I posted this on social media, but this weekend's podcast, episode 881, which had my full review of the Vince McMahon Netflix documentary, cracked number 2 in the United States. All wrestling podcasts on all of Apple Podcasts, which is by far the biggest way people listen to the podcast, and probably most podcasts. Number 2, behind only Jim Cornette. In some pretty good company here on this list. And that doesn't happen without you guys. So thank you very much for all of the support. Again, that's why it does help to listen to the full shows. Not everything on those full shows ends up on the YouTube channel. Although the Vince review now is up on the YouTube channel. So if you missed it, you could check it out there. But again, I just wanted to say thank you because that was very cool to see number 2. So close to number 1, but you know what? Like I said, we're in good company on that list. So they've got a new theme song for NXT, because it is a new era. So they have a new theme song, which is by 2 Chainz and Lil Wayne. They have a new opening video to go with their new logo, which is a clean black and silver. It's basically the same NXT logo, it's just the black and silver color scheme now. So we went from black and gold. Now we are in the black and silver era. Shawn Michaels got a full entrance, came down to the ring, and the fans sang his song. And he welcomed us to the show, and on a podium in the ring behind him, he unveiled brand new NXT championships for the men, the world title, and the same for the NXT Women's Championship. And they're fairly basic. I mean, yeah, they're fine, but they're pretty pedestrian. But the rainbow belts are gone. So after tonight, no more rainbow belts anymore. He said he had one question for us, and we heard, "Are you ready?" But it wasn't Shawn's voice, it was Triple H's voice. And he suddenly appeared. He was on like the announcer's side of the ring and came walking up the steps. It took a few seconds, I think, before people realized. I think they were looking at the aisle. I think that's what was going on here, because they showed Triple H, and the crowd was, they weren't really. And then like 5 seconds later, all of a sudden they start like cheering their heads off. I don't think initially they actually saw him there. He was already at ringside. So he climbed up into the ring and he asked the question again, "Are you ready?" to get the crowd all hyped up. And that led into our opening contest of the night for the NXT Women's Championship. It was Roxanne Perez, who has been the champion since Stand and Deliver WrestleMania weekend, defending her title against Giulia. Boy, this woman came here, man. A lot of hype around Giulia. And this was really the first big match. I mean, she had a match with Chelsea Green on TV. It was like a warm-up match. This really was her first important match in NXT. And I had high hopes for this match because I actually thought that these two would work well together and they would go out there and have an excellent match. Both women started out with a stalemate. They went to an early commercial break 10 minutes into the show. Welcome to the CW. Both women traded slaps and pie-faced each other, and Giulia shut that shit down with some headbutts. She got a 2 count off of a hammerlock belly-to-belly and then responded to a Roxanne forearm with 3 of her own. So Giulia got a superplex into a bridge for a good near fall. Perez rolled into a crossface. And then Giulia, after that, countered a Pop Rocks attempt into a backslide. Roxanne did finally hit Giulia with Pop Rocks, but Giulia wisely rolls out under the bottom rope and out to the floor to avoid the pin. So at ringside, Giulia is recovering, and she hits Roxanne. When she comes out, she hits her with a Northern Lights bomb on the floor. And both women ended up beating the count back into the ring before the count of 10. Perez went over to the podium outside on the announcer's side to go grab the new women's championship that was sitting there, the black and silver belt. Although I guess for the women it's white and silver. But while that's going on, the referee is distracted. On the other side of the ring, someone comes running down. A hooded mystery figure appears at ringside. And this hooded woman plants Giulia with a future shock DDT on the floor, and then puts her back into the ring. Roxanne gets in, finishes Giulia off with pop rocks, and pins her to retain the NXT Women's Championship. The hooded woman in the aisleway then reveals herself to be none other than Cora Jade. Now, we have not seen Cora Jade in a very long time. She got hurt at a live event back in January. I think it was against Lyra Valkyria. Because I remember the footage, or at least photos, if not footage, floating around on social media at the time. But there she is, and she's from Chicago, and so you could see her mouthing the words, this is my city. Roxanne's in the ring with her title. She looks over and sees this, and she kind of smirks, but she's also got her eyebrows raised like she wasn't expecting this. But she didn't seem too bothered, given that she picked up the win. But this was Cora's return. She tore her ACL, her MCL, and her meniscus. So that's like the same injury that Tegan Nox had when her knee exploded that time during the Mae Young Classic. It was the same thing. I call it the terrible triad. It's the same thing that got Charlotte Flair, right? I'm pretty sure it was ACL, MCL, and meniscus all at the same time. And that's a tough injury to come back from. Not that people don't come back from it, but it takes a long time. Cora's been out about 8 or 9 months, and even still, to have all 3 of those, I'm actually thinking she was back earlier than expected, even though it's already been a long time. But it was good to see her, back in, I assume, tip-top shape. I don't think they would have had her out there hitting moves if she wasn't medically cleared. So, it was good to see her back. And the women's title picture right now, you've got Roxanne is still the champion. You've got Giulia, who took the loss. The only reason Giulia lost was because of Cora Jade's involvement. I am not one of these people who is going to pitch a fit about the fact that, they beat Giulia. I can't believe they already beat Giulia. Everybody was expecting Giulia to win. Everybody assumed, oh my God, of course, Giulia's going to win. They're not going to beat her this soon. That's what made me start thinking, you know what? I don't think they are going to have her win. Because everybody thinks it's going to happen. And also, are they about to call up Roxanne Perez imminently to the main roster? They may have to when SmackDown goes 3 hours in January, but it's not like they're going to rush her up to the main roster right now. So why the need to rush the belt off of her when you can work an actual program between these two for another month or 2 months? Because we all know that ultimately Giulia is going to end up with that championship, but I don't know that, there was a need to put the belt on her right now. Why? She just showed up. And the competition in the division is really now starting to heat up because not only do you have Giulia, but you've got Stephanie Vicaire. We saw the vignette later in the show. We know Delta is on her way in, right? She's a beast. You've got Cora, who just came back. And they have a lot of other women in the division, too. You've got Lola Vice, and you've got Sol Ruka. They've got different people. Kalani Jordan right now is the North American champion. JC Jane. All these different personalities. Jada Parker. So I don't know that there was really a need to have to take the belt right now off of Roxanne. So I don't mind that they did what they did. And as far as what they did here, the match itself I thought was good. This match was nothing blow away. There were a few wonky moments at different points during the match. And Giulia is clearly holding back from the Giulia that, if you've seen any of her matches in Japan, clearly she's holding back. Now, I'm hopeful that over time, not that I want her to go out there and be stiffing people, but just we'll get to see more of, what really brought Giulia to the dance as time goes on and she gets more acclimated. So as good as she was here, clearly she was still, holding back. There has to be a rematch here. There will be at some point. When this was over, I was wondering, I said, well, Cora now, right? Her getting involved here. What is this leading to? Is there going to be some kind of a multi-person match? This felt like a tag team match to me. Like that's where we were headed. And then sure enough, later on in the show, there was a very brief backstage segment where Cora was doing an interview and Roxanne walked up to her. And Cora said, obviously the two of them have history together. They used to be friends. But Roxanne told Cora, who knows? Maybe a common enemy can, bring the two of them back together since they used to be friends. Because that's what I came out of this match thinking. We're going to get a tag team match. Roxanne needs an ally right now. They're coming at her from all angles. I mean, you've got Giulia and Stephanie at the same time coming in, right? She's a dead woman. So it kind of makes sense to have her link up with somebody. It gets Cora into the title picture, and we can get a tag team match at some point. We get Roxanne and Cora, back together. Maybe against Giulia and Stephanie. So that especially after that backstage segment, that appears to be where this is headed. But people love to talk about Giulia's aura. She has it in spades. I mean, from the entrance they gave her, she's such a fucking star. She just is. And she's going to be fine. This was not the match that I was hoping we would get. I thought we were going to get like the big knockdown drag out. Like, oh my God, this was one of the best women's matches all year. It was not, but it was still good. It wasn't a bad match. But it was underwhelming, I think, because a lot of people had expectations for this that probably were not met. I know I'm one of those people. So a good match, not a great match, but given the finish they did here, the bullshit finish, hopefully just the first little taste of what is to come later on between these two. Now, in the back, Ava, the general manager, was chatting with CM Punk, speaking of Chicago's own. Lexis King interrupted and asked if he could talk to Punk, and Punk said that he respects King's father and is willing to help him out. Lexis said that he's trying to be his own man. And then he brought up Oro Mensah picking up a dirty win over him last week. Punk said that next time he faces Oro, he can try to win at all costs, or he can fight against his genes. King thanked Punk for the advice. They parted ways amicably. Very nice to see CM Punk imparting some wisdom here on this former AEW star. This is a very interesting interaction between these two. I was expecting there to be some kind of snarky comment by King at the end of this, or they just parted ways amicably. Oh, gee, thanks for the advice. What a nice guy. What a nice guy this CM Punk is. We had Wesley against Zachary Wentz of the Rascals in a street fight. NXT against TNA, even though they did not frame it that way. I'm not even sure they mentioned the initials TNA on the entire show. But here you have two former friends, former tag team partners, both in TNA and here in NXT. Wesley, for those who don't know, but if you're an NXT fan, obviously you do, he turned heel back in August, which I was not expecting. I did not expect a Wesley heel turn, because he's just a really good, scrappy, underdog babyface. And then he turned heel. Like, as I recall that angle, they really wanted to make you think that the Rascals might be turning on him, but then it kind of went the other way. And he's, from what I've seen, he's been doing, some good stuff, and we know in the ring he can go. So this was another match where, when you see that these two are going to go out there, these two friends, and they're going to have a street fight, you have high hopes for it. This delivered more than the opening match did. I thought as WWE street fights go, you're only going to get so much violence up to a point. They call it a street fight, and of course you get your kendo sticks, you get your usual bullshit. As these types of matches go, I thought this was really good. Wentz tossed Wesley into the steel steps and then took the shopping cart that Wes had brought to the ring with him. And the Judgment Day. That's supposed to be Monday. It's not supposed to be on Tuesday, but the Judgment Day doesn't give a shit. They show up on Tuesday anyway. Thank you, Ian, with the $32 super chat. The Judgment Day. Can't get away from these people. So Wentz tossed Wes into the steps and then rammed the shopping cart that Wes had brought to the ring with him. He wheeled it right into Wesley. Wentz dragged out a giant wooden board, like a floorboard, out from underneath the ring. And as he was holding it, Wesley came flying out of the ring like a missile right into the wooden board, which went backwards into Wentz, took him into the barricade. Wes then tossed a bunch of chairs into the ring, and then he worked over Zach with some kendo stick shots. Wentz hit Wes with a couple of hard chair shots to the back. dragged West to the apron. Both men spilled over, then down through the wooden floorboard that was placed across some chairs at ringside. Coming back from a commercial break, Wentz hit Wesley with a Van Terminator, so he went coast to coast. West kicked out at 2. Wentz then gave Wentz and West, man, this is ridiculous here. This is like Braun, and Bronson. It's too much. Too much.
I love you, Solo. You are my tribal chief.
Pisco with the I love you Solo. I love it. Pisco, thank you, man. Thank you for the $16. Pisco 95. I'm going to be reading your messages here. Don't go nowhere. We'll get to them in a little bit. Wentz, though, gave Wes a tilt-a-whirl flapjack onto a seated chair in the ring, which looked brutal. That looked rough. Wentz laid Lee down with a trash can placed over him and then went up top, hit a swanton bomb. Wentz went for a UFO cutter, but Wesley, he shoved Zach off the ropes, and there was a table set up outside the ring. He was supposed to go crashing through the table. Unfortunately, he went flying over the table. He overshot his target, and he kind of clipped the table with his shoulder, but the table didn't really move, and Wentz crashed and burned on the floor. Oops. That didn't go the way that he had planned. Wes dragged Zach back into the ring and laid him over an open chair and then hit him with a double stomp for a near fall. There was a chain in the ring, and both men wrapped the chain around their hands. They knocked each other out with right hands. Wentz grabbed a chair, and now he's standing over Wesley, and he's threatening to use it. And he's almost in tears, and he didn't want, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. But then he says, I love you. And as he raises it up, he's going to use it on him. Wesley kicks him low. And then he delivers a chain-wrapped fist to the head. Then he climbed the ropes. He wrapped the chain around his knees, around his legs. And he jumped off. He took Wentz down while he was sitting in a chair. Took him backwards with a chain-assisted Meteora. And then he pinned him to win the street fight. So NXT wins over TNA. The crowd was very quiet for a good part of this match. They were up for the big spots. You know what? Very similar to? I just literally said the same thing last night in the Raw review about Last Monster Standing with Braun Strowman and Bronson Reed. The crowd was surprisingly quiet for portions of that match, and then they would do like a big spot, and then they would react, and then they would be quiet again. And that's kind of what this reminded me of. They were pretty quiet for the majority of this, but they did peak for, the key spots in the match, at least. And they got pretty brutal, with some of the bumps that they took. And the table miss was not good. But I thought this was a really strong match. This was easily the best thing on the entire show. Wesley here picks up the win. This was, again, I didn't mention this at the beginning, but they were obviously in a bigger building tonight. They were in Chicago. I don't know how many people they had in the building, but maybe 10,000. I mean, whatever the number was, they had a lot more people in the venue tonight than they do week to week at the Performance Center. At the Performance Center, maybe they have 200 people, 250, somewhere in that range. So it was nice for them to get out of there and be on the road. And they're going to be on the road again next week. They're not going to do this every single week. I don't think that even with the added exposure that they should get now from being on the CW, that the brand is that popular enough to sustain putting it on the road every single week and the expense involved in running road shows live every single week in venues that, even if it's not an NBA-sized building, like next week, for example, right? They were going to run a venue that fits close to 20,000 people. They really thought that they would be able to pack it in, if not sell it out, pack enough people in there. And they couldn't sell for shit. So they moved the show to a much smaller venue that has a max capacity of about 3,000. And that's with Randy Orton on the show. They were promoting Randy Orton as being on next week's episode of NXT, and they could barely sell tickets. So they downgraded to a smaller venue. I don't see them running on the road weekly. I do hope that as they head into the new year, we will get more road shows from NXT. I just think it's good to get the show in front of a different audience, in front of a different building, in a different city on a regular basis. Doesn't have to be every week, even if it was once a month. I think it's something that this brand needs if it wants to grow and it wants to expand. So however many people were in the building tonight, it was a pretty dead crowd, honestly, for a good swath of the show. But just judging from the show they got, I don't blame them. This was not a very exciting show. So I can't even, I'm not going to sit here and heel on the crowd for not making a lot of noise because, frankly, they just didn't have a lot of reasons to make a lot of noise. They really didn't. So then and case in point, what did they give this crowd tonight? They gave them The Miz. My point exactly. They got The Miz, who did get booed because he went heel on Raw last night. He turned on R-Truth. And The Miz was there for a Miz TV segment. So he's in the ring, and he introduces the two participants in next week's North American Championship match. We have Tony D'Angelo, the challenger, and we have the champion, Oba Femi. So they come out to the ring, they take their seats in their chairs. Miz asked Tony he asked him about how he had admitted that he was afraid of Oba. And he asked, what's going to be different this time than it was at No Mercy the last time they were in the ring together? Tony said that he's usually the man that strikes fear in others, because he whacks people. That's his gimmick. But Oba dominates the sport. He's going to use his fear to overcome and do the impossible, which has become the new NXT North American champion. So here's a man who's being very open and very honest about the fact that he's afraid of this man. He's intimidated by this man, but he's going to channel that fear and he's going to overcome and he's going to win the championship. And you would think everybody would be solidly behind Tony D'Angelo. They gave him the what treatment as he was cutting this promo. And he leaned into it. So he could hear it, and instead of just trying to talk over it, he leaned into it by giving people that pause after every couple of words so they can go, what? What? And this is the way that they train these people, because if you listen to the way they cut promos, clearly some of them are better at it than others. But so many of them do the same thing where they talk like in sound bites. They talk like a few words and then they kind of leave a gap. And they're just begging, basically. They're just asking the crowd at that point to just start chanting what. And then they do. Some people get thrown off by it, some don't. I thought he handled it pretty well here. But when you do stuff like that and you give people an opening, it's just tailor-made for the idiots to chant what. You've just got to find a way to not even give them the chance. Some people are good at that. Some people are not. Frankly, I think that, at the Performance Center and NXT, they should have a class devoted to nothing but trying to overcome the what chant. A special bonus promo class. How to avoid the what chant. Seriously, I think it's a big enough problem they should devote an entire class to it. I really do. Or trying to come up with clever little witty comebacks if you're a heel. Have just an entire class devoted to that. Bring somebody in to teach. So Miz wanted a response from Oba. Oba said that Miz would know if a person believes what he says due to his years in the business, right? They really mean what they say. He doesn't think that Tony believes what he says. Oba said that Tony has dominated NXT for years, but his career has a ceiling. He said that Tony can stuff as many people into trunks and toss people off of bridges and have a side hustle, but one thing that Tony can't do is win the North American Championship. Tony talked about growing up in on the streets of Chicago, which of course got him the cheap pop. And it also stopped the fucking what chants. He said that he has family in the back. He's got family in the crowd.
I love you, Solo. You are my tribal chief.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am, Ian. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat. So he's got family in the crowd. He's got family in the back. He's probably got family at the bottom of a fucking river, too. He's got family all over the place and friends who motivate him to be the man that he is today. So Oba said that they can't fight for him, though. That's the thing. You can have all the friends and family you want. They can't fight this battle for you. He said it's just him and Tony in the ring next week. And he said the last time they were in the ring, he broke Tony and he beat him. We all know Tony can't beat him. D'Angelo said that Oba is just the man, and Oba said that he is inevitable. And we got a face-off between the two with The Miz in the middle as he was hyping up their match for the title on the show next week. Oba is great. Oba Femi is the real deal. A lot of people speak very highly of him, and again, some people who know that I haven't been reviewing NXT as much as I used to were like, oh, you gotta see this Oba Femi guy. Believe me, I do. He's one of those people I pay attention to. And he's very impressive because not only is he just a giant man, he's a beast in the ring. His promos are actually really good. Like he's very good in these promo settings. And I feel like if somebody like him were to have come along like 30 years ago, right? He'd be on television. He'd be like just the big like savage guy who just grunts, because he looks big and mean. But he's got like that deep voice and he's really good at that. The in-ring stuff, I think he's also come along really nicely, especially from where I remember him being. He was in the breakout tournament, I think. And you see the progress. You see the progress from then to now, which is one of the things that you look for in NXT, because at the end of the day, that is what NXT is for. You are developing the stars of tomorrow today. Stars that you want to populate the roster on Raw and SmackDown are coming from NXT. He is one of those people. When he eventually gets that call up, I think he's going to be a big deal, and the sky is the limit for him because he's got it all. Everything that they could possibly look for in a star. His in-ring work, perfectly fine. His promo skills, perfectly fine. His size speaks for itself. Check, check, check. He's got a certain charisma about him. So when people say that Oba Femi is him, they're not lying. This guy's the real deal. Now, I haven't been following the week-to-week between these two and their storyline ever since their match in No Mercy. I do know that a few weeks ago, I believe Tony paid off Alexander Hammerstone from TNA to come in, and he got beat by Femi. So I did see that. But I haven't been seeing all of the week-to-week between these two. So as far as this being a big feud for next week, it doesn't feel that big to me. But I did see the match in No Mercy, and now they're going to go out there next week, and hopefully they can live up to expectations. And I don't know. I mean, the way they were kind of building it up here makes you think that Tony is the underdog who's going to pull it out and win the championship. He's got to lose at some point. I never really imagined that Oba would lose it to Tony D'Angelo. But who else is he going to lose it to? Is there really anybody on the horizon in NXT right now? For those of you who may be following it more closely than I have been over the past couple of months, is there anybody on the radar right now who would seem to be like, okay, that's the guy who is going to beat Oba Femi. They're getting that guy ready, or I could see this guy being the one to beat him. I don't know that there is anybody on the immediate horizon. So maybe we'll get another title change next week. If it's me, I'm keeping that belt on him for the long haul until they make the decision that they want to move him on up, and then he can drop it or forfeit it. If it's me, I'm not taking the championship off of him to put it on Tony D'Angelo, but that's me. We had Jaida Parker and Lola Vice against Fatal Influence, which was Fallon Henley and JC Jane with Jasmine Nix in their corners. So let me get this straight here. JC Jane went from Toxic Attraction to Fatal Influence. Do I have that right? Is that the transition here? I can't wait until she joins her next group, Lethal Injection. We had the women's North American champion, Kalani Jordan, was ringside for this match. She joined on commentary. She was the story coming into this is she was trying to keep Lola Vice and Jaida Parker from basically killing each other because these two women were not on the same page. And she was trying to play peacemaker and not doing a very good job of it. So I guess that was kind of the story coming into this. You know, I thought the work here was fine. I couldn't get into this. You know, and I kind of feel like even if I was fully up to speed on every segment that these women have had together in this story, this was nothing compelling here at all. Henley shoved Vice into Parker heading into a break. JC and Fallon, they cut the ring in half on Lola with quick tags. Lola rallied, accidentally ran into her partner though, which led to Jaida Parker walking off on Vice. Vice countered a double team slam and hit both opponents with some taekwondo kicks. But it wasn't enough. Henley and JC, they hit Vice with a stereo knee and Shining Wizard. That allowed Fallon Henley to pick up the win for Fatal Influence. So after the match was over, Fatal Influence, they all took microphones. And they called out Kalani Jordan for a shot at her North American Championship. And Jordan gets up and she says, "We can go right now, but I didn't come by myself here." And out comes Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair, the women's tag team champions. They cleared the heels from the ring and they celebrated with Kalani Jordan. And then later on in the show, they announced that sure enough, next week in St. Louis, it's going to be Bianca, Jade, and Jordan taking on Fatal Influence. Fatal Influence is like a Wish version of Toxic Attraction. This group will soon die off, and then JC Jane will have to hitch her wagon to something else. Maybe a reunion with Gigi Dolan, if she ever comes back. I feel like Gigi's been gone for a while. What was the nature of her injury? Probably an ACL, right? Why am I even asking? 98% chance it was probably some sort of knee injury, as is usually the case with the women here in NXT. It's like some weird virus going around. But I feel like she's been gone for a while now. It's been at least a few months. But yeah, it's like every time I tuned into NXT, it's like JC Jane is with a different group. She was with Toxic Attraction, and then she was with Chase University. Now she's with Fatal Influence. This woman can't stand on her own 2 feet. She's always got to be attached at the hip to somebody else. It's amazing. They aired a Javon Evans promo where he talked about being shocked when he saw that he would be wrestling Randy Orton on St. Louis, or in St. Louis, on the show next week. Evans said that he is happy to face one of his idols, and the show cut to a pre-taped promo from Randy Orton in the locker room. They probably filmed it last Friday. Had the towel around his neck. He's standing there. He's putting over Javon Evans. I hear a lot of good things about this kid. Everyone tells me what a great wrestler he is, how great in the ring he is. And he said that some people even think that Evans could be, in his own way, the next Randy Orton. He is very talented. I would not be making that comparison because that's very unfair to anybody. But yes, Javon Evans is very talented. He's very skinny. So he is going to have to, if he wants to be on the level of a Randy Orton, I'm just saying, if this is the comparison that people are going to be making, he's going to have to put some weight on. And I'm not saying that in the way that Vince would have said that to somebody 35 years ago. You know, hey, you got to put some weight. Better hit the gym, pal. But yeah, he's going to have to bulk up a little bit, I think, if he wants to be taken seriously at a level like that. But he is very talented, and I'm sure the two of them are going to have a fun match next week. That should be the highlight of the show next week. I am looking forward to catching up with that. And then we were up to the main event, folks. It's main event time. Trick Williams challenging Ethan Page for the NXT Championship. Special guest referee, CM Punk.
I love you, Solo. You are my tribal chief.
With a cameo from Jacob Fatu, who is always welcome here on these streams. Was that Jeremy? I believe it was. Jeremy, thank you. Jeremy Rose. So early on in the match, Page tried to cheat with his feet on the ropes. Punk just sat there on his knees and just refused to count. Like, what are you doing? Williams went out after Page on the floor. He went to go send him into the barricade, but Ethan reversed him and sent Trick crashing through the barricade by the timekeeper's area, which is, I have to say this, because we saw this last night too. We see this every night. That spot, that whip or spear or whatever through the timekeeper's barricade, and it's primarily on WWE shows. That is up there now with the super kick, as far as I'm concerned, as far as the most overused and abused spots in all of wrestling. And it really needs to stop. Like, it was a cool thing when you saw it every now and again. The fact that they do it every single show. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. Every single show. It's the same spot. What does it mean? When you do something like that, and we're not just talking about a body slam or a superplex, right? You're spearing someone, or someone is crashing through the barricade, right? Why are we seeing that on every single show? When did this happen, that we got to this point that this is something that became just the norm on a weekly basis? I just don't get it. So that took us into the final commercial break. After the break, Page had control. Williams, though, quickly regained control and dropped him with a flapjack. Big boot sends Page out to the floor, right in front of the announcers. Trick goes out after him, and he ends up going face first into the steps. So Page hoists him up for the Ego's Edge. He's going to plant him with the Ego's Edge through the announce desk. And he does. And he goes crashing through the table. Table collapsed. So did the audio, because the CW mutes the holy shit chants just like Fox did. The same exact way. They just mute all the audio. I'm not even sure which is worse, the way they do it on Monday or the way they did it here. I actually think it's more annoying when they do it on Monday, where they only bleep out the holy shit and then they cut back and then they cut and then they cut back, like in and out. I actually find that to be more grating on the nerves. So I guess if they have no choice and they have to censor it, just censor the whole thing. So that's what they're doing here, just like they did on Fox. At least there's no blackouts. There were no black screens tonight on the show. That's a good thing. So Punk went out to go check on Trick. Then he got back in the ring. He never even bothered to count him. Never even put a count on. Trick got back in the ring. He had a rising knee strike, but he collapsed. And then Page collapsed on top of him, which is how he won the title in Toronto. So he got a good near fall out of that. Eventually, both men make their way back to their feet. Trick takes him down with a neck breaker and then whips him right back up so that he can grab him and plant him with a rock bottom. Got a near fall. The Trick shot followed and missed. Page, though, hit one of his own, only got 2 out of it. Then he got in Punk's face, and he picks up Trick for a trip onto his shoulders right in front of Punk, and he delivers a go-to sleep right in front of Punk. He covered him, but Trick kicked out. So then here comes the Ego's Edge. Trick, though, slips out, but he slips out right in front of CM Punk, who grabs him and then very gently and very politely just puts him in the corner. Because I thought we were going to get a ref bump here, but there was no bump. And I actually thought we were going to get something else on this show, too. I'll mention that in a minute. But he slips out. Punk puts him in the corner. Page turns around. He sees this. He comes charging in. He misses a kick. And then Williams, out of nowhere, hits the Trick shot knee. And he covers him, and he pins Ethan Page just like that. 1, 2, 3. To win the NXT championship. They gave him a confetti celebration. Punk very quickly hoists Ethan Page up onto his shoulders and delivers a go-to-sleep of his own. They were clearly running out of time, and not 5 seconds later, they just cut the show off. It was just right into the next show. And the reason they did that and they cut it off at the top of the hour, you ain't getting any NXT overruns anymore. All you people who watch NXT every single week and you're used to the show going off the air at 10:07, 10:08, those days are done. Because it's the Fox thing, where on a lot of the CW affiliates, they have a 10 p.m. newscast with a hard stop at the top of the hour. So you're not going to get those overruns anymore. And it felt like they were rushing to get everything in here before they went off the air. And I don't know if that contributed to the finish feeling flat. The whole match felt flat to me. The finish was flat. I thought the main event was very flat. People were happy to see Trick get the belt back because they like Trick Williams. And Trick Williams is kind of like an Oba Femi in that, he's a big guy. He's not big the way that Oba is big. But Trick Williams is actually a big guy. I think he played football. And very charismatic. His work also has improved a great deal, especially over the last year. And when he eventually goes to the main roster, he also will do well. I actually think he probably has a higher ceiling once he hits the main roster than Carmelo Hayes does. Hayes is a better in-ring worker than he is, by far. But I just think that Trick is that kind of guy with all of his charisma and personality that will have a better chance of getting over and becoming a world champion one day before Hayes will. So again, they got some studs down there in NXT. When they're ready to finally call these guys up, Trick is well liked, like I said, but there was nothing special about this match. This did not feel, I know it wasn't a PLE, but this was a big night for NXT. And it's a championship match. They're in the main event. They have these time constraints, and you have commercials, which kill the flow of the match, but this should have been a bigger deal than it was. And this was just a television main event. That's it. Nothing more. So I was left thinking that this was actually very disappointing. And that's kind of how I felt about the show as a whole. Wasn't anything on the show that was bad or like horrendously bad. But for a show that had a lot of hype coming into it, and even Vic Joseph said it at the very beginning, like this is the biggest night in the history of NXT, didn't feel that way. Not even close. So the show overall I thought was fine, but if anything, it was a little underwhelming. The opening match was on the underwhelming side. The main event was on the underwhelming side. The best thing on the show was the street fight between the Rascals, and everything else was just kind of there. I mean, the Oba promo was good, but it was like, whatever. You got Tony D still. I can't believe he's still doing this gimmick. Like, this is it now. Like, that's it. That's his gimmick for life. Like, I don't know. I mean, he's been doing it long enough now. It's not like in the old days where when you were in developmental, you could just sort of hide them on the network. They weren't on TV. NXT's on TV. Not only are they on TV, they're on broadcast TV now. So you can't hide this. And this guy's going out there being a fake mafioso with the accent and everything. And it's like, he's probably going to be stuck doing this shit for the rest of his career. And he does okay with it, but I think there's a ceiling. And Oba said the same thing, by the way, in his promo. You have a ceiling here. There's a lot of truth in that statement. Maybe one day he'll be able to reinvent himself, but when you play a character for so long, it's tough, to break out of that. So you could see the pieces that they have here as far as the roster is concerned. The talent they have, reasons, to be excited, and reasons that if I were Shawn Michaels, I would be excited. It's like having all these little chess pieces that I can play with. He's got a very good roster. But the show just doesn't have the kind of appeal to me as a longtime NXT fan. It just doesn't have the same appeal to me that it used to. And you could go back and watch some of those Full Sail shows, the hour-long NXT Full Sail shows back in 2014, 2015, and they'd have like job matches on there. You'd have Tyler Breeze come out doing his gimmick, and you'd have the Vaudevillains, and I'm thinking back to the Black and Gold era, which is really where the brand took off. And it's not like everything on those shows was fantastic, but there was just a certain vibe to those shows. And maybe part of it was that it was the early days, and they would put these big events on their own pay-per-views. And more often than not, those shows would blow away the main roster. It became like a running competition between NXT and the main roster. And I used to say, like, boy, they're running the same building SummerSlam weekend, and good luck to the main roster, trying to top what NXT did the night before. It was a special time, I think, to be a fan of that brand. And they had a good mix of not only developmental talent, but also indie talent that Triple H wisely brought in. Because, first of all, it was clear as day what Triple H was trying to do. He was trying to create his own super indie, which is what he did. And he stole away a lot of that buzz that Ring of Honor had. That's what Ring of Honor was. And when you had the rise of NXT and then AEW came along, Ring of Honor just kind of got put on the back burner, and it didn't have that same vibe that it used to have. But he had this interesting mix of developmental talent out of the PC and more established independent talent. And you could see they're trying to have that now. They freely move people from the main roster over to Tuesday nights to appear on NXT. We've seen Chelsea Green, and we've seen Natalya. We've seen just all kinds of people who will still show up in NXT. Bianca and Jade tonight. So they still try to have a good mix. But just a lot of these stories and some of these characters, and I don't know, it just doesn't have the same feeling. It just doesn't have the same appeal, that it used to. So I kind of pick and choose from it, what I like. I got my eye on certain people, Oba being one of them. But as far as watching this show week to week, there ain't no fucking way I'm doing that. Like, you can forget that. Ain't gonna happen. But on the whole, I thought it was a solid effort. Not their best effort. Hopefully they have a better show in St. Louis next week. It'll be a smaller crowd, but you know what? Those smaller crowds, again, I'm sure tonight they had somewhere in the 7 to 10,000 range, something like that. But they'll have maybe 2,500 in the building, 3,000 maybe in the building next week, and they may be louder than they were tonight. It's kind of why I have never understood why they haven't run an NXT, like a PLE, from the Hammerstein Ballroom. I don't even understand why Tony Khan hasn't thought to run an AEW show from the Hammerstein Ballroom. You would think that one of them would have done it by now in the last 10 years. I don't think WWE has done it since the last ECW episode they taped there, which I think had that horrible Batista and Big Show match. I think it scared them off for life. And I know it's not the best venue to do TV. I know they've talked about that before. It's not a very TV-friendly venue from the production end. But I think an NXT show at the Hammerstein Ballroom or in some places like that would be a lot of fucking fun. More fun than this show was tonight. Here's the Twitter poll. What did you think of the NXT premiere on CW? Hey, Mo. Shout out to Mo in the chat. Thank you, Mo. What did you think of NXT? 61% thumbs up, 25% thumbs in the middle, and about 13% thumbs down for tonight's show. This poll is currently up on Twitter at Solomonster. That's where you can vote. And let me know what you thought of the NXT premiere. Episode 1 of the Black and Silver era. All right, let's take a look at your super chats here. We are currently sitting at 346 likes, so we're not quite at our goal yet. So Be the Booker is no guarantee. I'm just saying. Not a guarantee. Shout out to Sidro. Man, Sidro's with us again tonight. Sidro was with us last night, too. Never know what to expect with Sidro. Sidro says, in hell, hey, there's somewhere I can get a protein shake. Dude, there's no way in hell. Also, I'm terrified of elevators, taking steps to avoid them. Sidro, keep trying. One of these days, this crowd will turn around on you. And they will give you the laughter that I know you seek. If money don't grow on trees, he says, why do banks have branches? I don't even know what to say to that. I don't know. It's actually a good question. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you. You are out of control. Luis! Going to rewatch NXT on KTLA. You're going to rewatch NXT? You're a better man than I am. He's going to rewatch it on KTLA. Oh, and fuck Nexstar and the and their 15-hour-long morning newscast. Okay. Hey, Luis, thank you. Nick wants to know, how do you think Triple H has done with the call-ups over the past year and a bit? I personally feel like a majority of their booking has left a lot to be desired. Outside of obvious expectations for Braun Breaker. Yeah, I think a lot of people have a lot of expectations for Braun Breaker. So, I mean, as far as the Triple H call-ups over the past year or so, Breaker is the one that I don't worry about at all. Very interesting based on what they did last night. It looks like that they could potentially be setting up for Breaker to challenge Gunther at WrestleMania. You know, for the World Heavyweight Championship. That looks like that's a very likely direction now. And I don't know if the ACL injury to Ilya Dragunov changed anything. If maybe he was going to be in that conversation, and now he certainly won't be. Braun Breaker is going to be a world champion. Braun Breaker is going to be a WrestleMania headliner. So is this guy.
Loves Gunther, the Magnificent.
Oh boy!
All hail Gunther.
Randy Bobandy is with us with a $50 Gunther bomb.
Look, everyone, it's Samoa BRO.
And Samoa BRO feels left out, and he has to make an appearance as well. Nick Grasso, thank you. Hey Randy, thank you, man, for the 50. That's very nice of you. I'm going to read your message here in a little bit. Braun Breaker, you know what? He's doing just fine. I don't have any issues with the way that they have promoted him so far. The rest of it is very much a mixed bag. As far as... Ian Noel Camelos with the $27 Roman Reigns super chat. One of the funniest, like so bad it's good segments in WWE history. I still don't know what they were trying to accomplish with that segment. I really don't. Ian, thank you. But let's look at some of these other call-ups. Look at Dragunov. Ilya Dragunov, right? Very much a mixed bag so far as how he's been used. And now he's hurt, and we're not going to see him for 6 to 9 months, which fucking sucks. Especially the timing of it, because that pretty much takes him out of WrestleMania, anything big anyway. Carmelo Hayes on SmackDown. Carmelo Hayes is doing well. Carmelo Hayes and Andrade have been one of the consistent highlights of that SmackDown show now for over a month. And so I think he's doing very well. JD McDonough is linked up with the Judgment Day, which is the top heel faction on Monday nights. I think that's a pretty good spot for him to be in. Let's be honest, if JD McDonough was not involved in the Judgment Day stuff, he wouldn't be doing a whole hell of a lot right now. I mean, seriously, what would he be doing right now if he was not part of the Judgment Day story? So he's in a very good spot because he's getting guaranteed TV time every single week and rubbing shoulders with the top heel faction in the company. Unless you think that Timu Bloodline is the top faction, which they are not. You got the Creed brothers. I mean, I'm glad they finally turned him heel and linked him up with Chad Gable. That's a step in the right direction, but the Creeds were starting to get over, and then I don't know. I don't know what happened, but they were not featured as much. So the Creeds, I wouldn't say great so far, but now finally they're starting, I think, to turn a corner with this whole American-made thing. Dragon Lee, not good at all. I don't know what happened there for a while with Dragon Lee. But Dragon Lee, if we had to go thumbs up and thumbs down, let's do thumbs up and thumbs down on these, okay? Braun Breaker, thumbs up. Ilya Dragunov, I'm actually going to go I'm going to cheat a little bit. And for Ilya, I'm going to go thumbs in the middle. Carmelo, I'm going to go thumbs up. McDonough, I'm going to go thumbs up. Somebody in the chat says he's a job guy. Okay, but again, what do you honestly think he would be doing if he wasn't in the Judgment Day? JD McDonough is not getting some kind of big singles push right now as some kind of a fucking destroyer, okay? This is the best spot for him to be in at this moment. There are far too many other people right now where if he was just on his own doing the singles thing at like the US or intercontinental level, he would be at the bottom of the pile. So for him, I'm going to go thumbs up. The Creeds, I'm going to go thumbs in the middle. Dragon Lee, I'm going thumbs down. That's an easy thumbs down for me. Kiana James got hurt, so it's not fair to judge what they've done with her because she got called up and she got hurt. Probably an ACL injury. What else is new? So we'll have to reserve judgment on her. Lyra Valkyria, I would go maybe a weak thumbs up, but a thumbs up. I think thumbs up on her. Yeah, she was in the Queen of the Ring, made it all the way to the finals. They had Becky there trying to give her a little bit of rub before Becky left. She hasn't won the championship yet or anything, but there's time for that. So I'd go an unenthusiastic thumbs up at the moment for Lyra. And Tiffany Stratton, she won Money in the Bank. That's good. What's not been good is what they have done with her since she's won Money in the Bank. That is not good. That is not good. But Tiffany's another one who I don't really worry about too much. She and Braun are kind of in the same category in that you could just tell that they're going to build around them. Like, they are two of the building blocks of the next 5 to 10 years of this company. So Tiffany and Braun, if I had to pick one man and one woman I'm not really worried about, those would be the two. So to answer your question, that's a long way of saying that it's been a very mixed bag with the Triple H call-ups. Not all bad, but definitely not all good either. Smoking dried chicken without flavor. Next week, your favorite girl, Sexy Red, is coming back to NXT in St. Louis. How about that? Well, now I know I'm definitely now watching the show next week. I forgot that Sexy Red is coming back. If there's any chance of her twerking with Shawn Michaels again, I'm going to avoid this show like the plague. So thank you for the reminder. Zizu. Off topic, but have you ever been to a micro wrestling show? Went to one last night and it was very fun. Thanks for all that you do. A micro wrestling show. I can't say that I have. Tony McCann. Tony McCann? I will give you a banger tomorrow, pal. Yeah, I heard that Tony Khan is teasing a big announcement. It's been a while since we've had a Tony Khan announcement, but we've been waiting for a very particular announcement, and it sounds like we're finally going to get it tomorrow. I'll be very happy when it's finally out of the way and we don't have to talk about it anymore. So keep an eye out. I think we're going to get some TV news tomorrow. Juice from the box. Any thoughts on CM Punk doing, quote, comedy with Shawn and Triple H after cutting the serious promo last night? I don't have any issue with it. First of all, the comedy that you're talking about, wasn't that just on social media? I think it was a social media segment, right? He was serious last night because Drew McIntyre was there. And they were inside the cell, and they were standing within, 10 or 15 feet of each other, and they hate each other's guts. And then he came to NXT tonight, where Drew McIntyre was not. That's what I was going to mention before, by the way. I was surprised that they didn't have Drew McIntyre come out of the crowd and go after Punk. Apparently, they wouldn't have had any time anyway. They were going to go off the air, but I thought it would have made sense to have McIntyre show up in Chicago, in Punk's hometown, and go after him and have like a pull-apart brawl, just to show that these two guys are just ready to kill each other. But there was no McIntyre cameo on the show tonight. But no, I don't have an issue with it at all. I mean, the majority of what we saw on TV tonight from Punk wasn't comedy. And his issue was with Drew McIntyre. Punk loves NXT. You know, there's a lot of rumors that Punk one day wants to run NXT. Shawn Michaels was asked about that in an interview, and he says, well, yeah, it could happen one day. I think it'd be a great idea. I could see Punk being involved with the PC in some way. So, totally different circumstances. If he was out there dancing an Irish jig, then I might have an issue with it. But otherwise, no, it is not a big deal. Mr. Rod with the $10. Missed NXT tonight, but as always, thanks for your reviews. That said, rest in peace to Dikembe Mutombo, Pete Rose, and John Amos, forever legends. Did John Amos pass away? Did we have another celebrity death? We had Pete Rose, we had Dikembe Mutombo, we had Chris Christopherson. Now we have John Amos. That's terrible. Yeah, a lot of people are going to talk about him from Coming to America and all that, but don't forget, he was also on the West Wing. He was one of the generals on the West Wing. Ian Noel Camelos, what are your thoughts on trying to use Giulia and Stephanie as faces and have the NXT heels treat Giulia and Stephanie as outsiders, have those two go through the roster for a bit before they face off? Yeah, I mean, you could do that, but I also think the story they set up tonight where Cora and Roxanne may form this alliance to try to fight back against Giulia and Stephanie, I think that would also work. But yeah, I mean, they're coming in with a lot of fanfare. They're coming in with, big reputation from outside of NXT. Maybe the other women resent them for it, and they have to go through some of them first. I can get behind that as a story. I think that would be a good idea. Pisco 95. I also much prefer Triple H's NXT, but I still try to keep up with the current once in a while. What's your favorite NXT match of all time? Mine is Johnny Gargano against Adam Cole in TakeOver New York. I was there for that match. It was unbelievable. It really was. And it's either that one. You see, I always come back to Johnny Gargano and Andrade in Philadelphia. It was such a great match. The only unfortunate part of that match is the finish. Because if Gargano had won that night, that place would have exploded. And then Andrade won, and you could hear the air just get sucked out of the building. But I just loved that match so much. It was so great. And it really did feel like a major match, the way the crowd was reacting to it and everything. So as far as my favorite NXT match ever, it's between three matches, really. It's between the Gargano and Andrade match in Philadelphia, that first Cole and Gargano match in New York, or Sasha and Bayley at TakeOver Brooklyn, and I probably would go with that. That match will always have a special place for me, and I was there for that one too. That was at the Barclays Center. That was the first Brooklyn show they ever did, and it's just a very, I think, for the women's division and women's wrestling in this company, a historically very significant match. I would argue one of the most historically significant women's matches in the history of this company. I think I might go with that one. Ian says, what are your thoughts on NXT maybe going once a month on the road or even create their own Big Four PLEs for NXT and bring the show to key cities to build up the brand that way? Well, I mean, I just talked about that before. I don't think they have to run the road every week. I think even if they did it once a month, absolutely. Get out of the PC once a month at least and take the show on the road. And it does not have to be to a gigantic venue, just like AEW. They cannot fill these big venues domestically. They can't do it. They were running these buildings that fit fucking 18,000 people and you'd have 2,500. They had to start running smaller venues. There's nothing wrong with NXT doing the same thing and going on the road once a month. I think it's something that they need to do. Jeremy Rose, looking forward to going to Bad Blood. Ticket prices are crazy. What are your thoughts on WWE ticket prices, TKO sellouts, or TKO drastically raised prices? Despite the sellouts, I think they are pricing out the fan base. Clearly not, because people are buying the tickets. I think it sucks, but it's supply and demand. And as long as they know they can get money for those tickets and they're going to sell, they're going to keep charging people an arm and a leg for it. I agree. I think it sucks. I think there's a lot of people and families, especially with kids, who they just can't afford these prices. I mean, even just for one ticket, let alone 4 or 5, it's crazy. So yes, they are pricing a lot of people out of the market, but there are still enough people where it's worth their while to charge those prices anyway. That's the model now. That's the TKO model. Pisco says, I'm also high on Femi. Do you think he'll be booked as a dominant beast when he gets to the main roster? And do you see him as a future main eventer? Yes and yes. To both of your questions, yes. Jace. NXT is understandably not everyone's cup of tea. Personally, it's my favorite show every week. It's developmental and experimental, which makes it fun. I give everyone there the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, and I think when you watch NXT, you have to remember that when you have certain people who may be rough around the edges, or they may botch stuff, or stuff doesn't look as smooth as it would on Raw or SmackDown, that it's still developmental, and you're going to have that. The issue with me is it's just not an interesting show in the way that it used to be. It's just not that interesting to me. You know, some of the characters and the stories are fine. Some of them are just corny, and I just, like, when I was watching more consistently and they had the Meta 4, like, every time they would come on my TV, I'm just like, I would see Noam Dar, and I would see the Heritage Cup, and like, the Heritage Cup is another example where I don't fault them for trying something different. I've never gotten into the Heritage Cup stuff. I'm just not a fan of it. But that's one example. The Iron Survivor is another one where that's actually a really cool concept. So NXT is very useful, I think, as a kind of like a breeding ground for new ideas and concepts that could eventually be adapted for the main roster. You try stuff. If it doesn't work, all right, we tried it, junk it, on to the next. And then sometimes you'll hit on something that's really fun, and it could become like an annual staple. And then one day, who knows, like War Games, we may see it on a WWE PLE. So NXT is very useful and can be fun for those reasons. But just the week to week and some of these characters and these storylines are just, it doesn't help that there's only so many hours in the week. I'm already watching so much wrestling. I mean, it would take a lot to get me to tack another show on every single week. And there just had to be a show that got sacrificed. It was just, you know, in my case, it was just a time commitment that I just wasn't willing to make anymore. It was just easier for me to make that commitment to it, 5 years ago. Now it's like, boy, this show would have to really be worth my while to just, not only watch it in full every week instead of just the main clips, but to like go live and review it. Tuesday's not going to work anyway, but again, it's just not, for me, it's not what it used to be. Nick Grosso says, what are your thoughts on the NWA getting booted off the CW app and airing on Twitter? I guess that Coke spot really came back to haunt them because they blew a big opportunity now and are in a bad spot. Where are all those people who were like refuting the reports at the time and saying, oh no, it's not true, and they're going to end up on the CW, and then they ended up on the app. Now they're not even on the app. That was supposed to be their big TV deal. When you say they blew it, they literally blew it. That will be a story to be told for years to come about how Billy blew a television deal by doing the stupidest possible thing that he could do. The stupidest, most unnecessary thing that he could do. And it cost them. And so, yeah, NXT just started with CW, and not a coincidence that the NWA just got booted. They're apparently airing on Twitter for the next 5 weeks. They have another deal, supposedly. I don't know with who. So the Twitter thing is only temporary. Because I was like, why not just put the show on YouTube? They have to have some kind of a paid partnership with Elon. Because I don't know why they wouldn't just put the show and make ad money on YouTube. You know, you barely make anything on X. But it's only for the next 5 weeks, and then I take it there's going to be some other deal that gets announced. But I doubt that it's going to be with a broadcast network like CW, so I don't know where they're going to end up, but that doesn't sound very good. Randy Bobandy. Buy, sell, rent, or leave on the shelf. This is Randy with the $50 bomb from before, by the way. The one and only Randy Bobandy. Buy, sell, rent, or leave on the shelf. Your heel manager, Cornette, Heenan, Blassie, and Heyman. I like, by the way, that you just included the 3 best managers in the history of the business. You just had to sneak them in there, right? Well, look, we're going to buy on Heenan, because Heenan is the greatest manager of all time. We are going to rent on Heyman. We are going to... I'm going to leave Cornette on the shelf. I'm going to sell Blassie. So I'll put Blassie at the bottom. And yeah, that's tough though, because again, Cornette, Heenan, and Heyman are the 3 greatest managers of all time. But that's how I would rank them. Nick Grosso also just wanted to send prayers to Jacob Fatu and the rest of the family, because I'm sure you heard by now his, I think that says brother. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know if it's an angle or what. So I haven't even mentioned anything about it. Hopefully everything with the family is okay. His brother, who's also a wrestler, is supposedly missing or was missing. I don't know if he's turned up. But hopefully whatever's going on there, hopefully everybody is okay. But Nick, thank you, sir. Panda King, how do raccoons party? They get trashed.
I am the Lord.
Speaking of trash. Fuck that tree. Right on cue. Yeah, again, it could be an angle. The stuff with Journey Fatu could be an angle. I don't know if it is or isn't, but I will say this: if it's an angle, it fucking sucks. I mean, that's just... I don't find that funny. I don't find that, oh, what an interesting story they're doing, because now everybody is legitimately concerned. Like, you hear these stories about wrestlers and your mind immediately goes to the most horrible place they could possibly go to. So I think that if it is a storyline, that it's just fucking stupid and it should be stopped immediately. But Panda King, that's quite the joke. You and Sidro would get along well, I think. Yeah, Justin is very proud of his timing on that one. Ian Noel with the 27. Steve says, sadly it was. They, quote, found him a few days ago. Well, I don't know who came up with that idea, but yeah, that was fucking stupid. Gotta work the marks though, right? Yeah, hope it was worth it. Ian says, watch. TNA ends up taking the idea of working the Hammerstein Ballroom after you mention WWE, NXT, and AEW not thinking about it. Ian, I hate to break the news to you, but TNA has already run the Manhattan Center before. I know because I was at those shows. They were in the Grand Ballroom. So when you walk into the venue, the Hammerstein is like right there on the ground level. That's the bigger building. That's the one that fits like maybe 2,500. 8 stories up, and they have one little tiny elevator. So take it from me. I have been to many Ring of Honor and some TNA shows in the Grand Ballroom on the 8th floor, where I just had to run up 8 flights of stairs. And That's not an easy thing to do, but I did it. But boy, you haven't lived until you've seen a bunch of wrestling fans who, not all of whom are necessarily in the best shape in the world, having to go up 8 flights of stairs. It's a very interesting experience. But yeah, technically TNA has already run that venue before. That was back when Bobby Lashley was the champion and he was part of the whole American Top Team thing. And yeah, those are some fun shows. You'll see there's a super chat. It might be the $3 one that you see me chanting Joe, Joe, Joe. I got the glasses on. Like that's from one of those TNA shows at the Manhattan Center. I think Joe won the X Division title, and I was like, Joe, Joe, Joe. That's what that's from. On another note, if NWA were to be bought out by a new owner, what should be done to improve the product? Nothing. Nothing. Just kill it. Kill it. I don't know what, I mean, is there some sort of tape library? I guess Billy doesn't own, like, the classic stuff, does he? I don't think so. So he's got the initials. Just buy it, strip it of whatever trademarks and stuff might be useful, and just be done with it. Like, there's no point in even keeping it alive. Pisco95, favorite, and that's another one, by the way. I used to watch the NWA. NWA Power, when it debuted, I watched that whole first season. I was reviewing it on the show. Then COVID hit, and it shut everything down, including the NWA. Eventually, they brought it back, and it was never the same. It just wasn't the same. But I enjoyed it for a while. One of the greatest promos in the history of wrestling comes from one of those NWA Power episodes when Eli Drake, LA Knight, Shoes of a Champion. If you've never seen the Shoes of a Champion promo, look it up. Shut the fuck up. Fuck that tree. Shoes of a Champion. That man was fucking drunk off his gourd. But he was having a good time and he had a big smile on his face. That might have been the best thing, honestly, to come out of Billy Corgan's NWA, is that Shoes of a Champion promo. Pisco95, favorite Raw After Mania episode. I can't even possibly remember all of them, but I would say maybe the one that I went to the night after WrestleMania 29. That one's pretty high up on the list because it has one of my favorite Money in the Bank cash-ins of all time. Maybe my favorite Money in the Bank cash-in of all time. When Dolph Ziggler cashed in. That was a fun night. Smoking dried chicken without flavor. It's the Good Son scenario. Save one and let the other one go. New York Mets edition. Grimace or Mr. Met? Well, as much as Grimace has been a great good luck charm for our team this season, Mr. Met is a staple. Grimace, I didn't even know what Grimace was. Everyone tells me he's a taste bud. I don't even know what a taste bud looks like. I guess a taste bud looks like a giant purple monster. I mean, that's what she calls it. No, but look, I mean, you gotta let Grimace go. Grimace is very fat anyway. Like he's very bottom heavy. So I feel like I wouldn't be able to hold him up. I feel like he would just slip through my hands. Like Quint in Jaws when Roy Scheider tries to hold on to him and he's got that glove and he slips. And then Quint ends up being eaten by the shark. You know, Grimace has to, he's got to drop some pounds. Otherwise, I don't think there's going to be much that I can do for poor Grimace. So, Grimace needs to be singing "Oh, oh, oh, Ozempic." And then maybe I could potentially do something for him. Justin G, Sexy Red on NXT. They know better. Oh, you know what? Fucking, I'm glad you brought that up. I made a comment not that long ago about how happy I was that I didn't have to hear that commercial anymore in that song. Like, finally, I stopped hearing that Wingstop commercial. And then I'm up here and I'm doing some work yesterday. And I'm working on my notes. I'm working on some. I'm always working on something. And the television is on, downstairs. And I hear, I stopped everything because I heard the song. And I said, oh no. And I look and the fucking commercial is back on the air. It's almost like I said something and it just like triggered, oh shit, we better bring the commercial back just to piss him off. So now I'm hearing this commercial. I already heard it today once. Like, I can't win. I can't win. They actually brought it back. They brought back that song. Randy Bobandy. Still devastated about the O's loss today, going to the game tomorrow. Hope we win and take the series on Thursday, only to lose to the Yankees. Well, Randy, I'm pulling for you. I hope it all works out. As long as you stay out of my way, I hope it all works out for you. Boney, is Chicago the top wrestling city? It's definitely a top wrestling city. Is it the top wrestling city? I'm going to say New York. I'm a little biased, but there's a lot of great, even independent wrestling. I happen to work for, in my opinion, one of the greatest independent wrestling promotions running anywhere in the country right now. And there's a lot of great local talent, a lot of big name talent come in. WWE still considers it its home base. We got the Garden, we got the Barclays Center. And if you count the whole tri-state area, you throw in the Nassau Coliseum, you've got the UBS Arena, which is relatively new. New York, baby. All about New York. Chicago's close, though. Chicago is in the conversation, though. Isaac, did you see the Nitro Grill video from WWE Vault? No, I didn't. I did see that they uploaded an old NWA house show, I think from 1988. No commentary, it's just a house show. And they're putting up some really cool stuff on that channel. So I will have to check that video out. Jeremy Rose, give me Oba versus Gunther, WrestleMania. Is it too soon? This WrestleMania? No, you're not doing it this Raw. What are you, out of your mind? In Vegas? No. I wouldn't even think about that until 2026. Absolutely too soon. Justin G, because someone's got to do it. Sorry I was late. That's our esteemed learning tree. Didn't know we had a stream tonight and I had to work overtime. We love you, Solo. Well, thank you, Justin. Jace, since you mentioned trying out ideas, what do you think of WWE having a women's mid-card title? When do you think is the right time for the main roster to have theirs? Well, we already have one in NXT, and I've spoken about this multiple times, Jace. You got to catch up with the shows. I just talked about this last week. I said that a women's intercontinental title on the main roster, I think, would actually now would be a good time to introduce one. So I'm okay with it. If it were up to me, the tag team titles would be retired. And then you would introduce a women's mid-card title. If it really works out nicely on one brand, you could always potentially introduce a second one on the other brand. But they really have to shore up those rosters, I think, before you introduce two of them. One of them I'm okay with. Two of them, I don't know that two is necessary. One that floats, see how it goes, potentially introduce a new one later on, but to just, we're going to have a women's IC and a women's US, I don't think I would do that. They probably would. If we're going to get women's mid-card titles, it's going to be both. I guarantee you it's going to be both. And I do think we're going to get it soon. I don't know if it'll be this year, but I think by the first half of next year, if we don't have a women's intercontinental or US title on TV, I'd be surprised. Power Spine Games. What's Winnie the Pooh's granny called? Pooh... Pooh Net... Smart one with that, huh? Pooh Nanny? That's the worst one yet. David Fearing, there he is. I feel like I haven't heard from David in at least a week. David, how's it going, Brother Solo? Hope you are well. Yeah, I try not to pay attention to stupid comments on social media. That's how you get brain rot when you look at some of that stuff. David, though, I'm glad to hear from you, brother. Thank you. Thank you for joining here on a Tuesday night. No matter how many times I say it in the course of a week, that I will be live on Tuesday, live on Tuesday, live on Tuesday. I know some people will turn around tomorrow and go, wait, you had a show on Tuesday? How did I not know? I had no idea. Josiah. Thank you for the 12. Josiah Ball. The Juliet, Punk gave the crowd free pizza after the show. Well, that wouldn't do me any good. I can't have pizza. Can't have pizza anymore. Another reason to hate CM Punk. I'd be sitting there in the crowd looking around at everybody eating pizza. I'd feel left out. Smoking Dried Chicken, the learning tree is actually Mitch the Plant. I forgot about Mitch. Aaron with the 20, just tuning in, but Giulia and Roxanne killed it. Also, sorry Solo, but go Yankees and Brewers. Well, your Brewers are on the brink of being bounced because they got thumped today, and they will be tomorrow as well. But thank you, Aaron. Cameron Spencer. Today here in Dallas, a man robbed a gas station and was caught 20 minutes later on the side of a road because he ran out of gas. Did I hear about that? No, I did not. You know, if I didn't know any better, I see a pattern here. If I didn't know any better, I would say that you're making these stories up. But thank you, Cameron. Thank you all for the super chat love here. We are currently sitting at 432 likes. That is indeed beyond our usual goals. So thank you guys for getting us past the goal tonight. That means that we are going to have a rare... Oh, wait for it.
Off is a direction you can fuck.
I saw it coming in. I said, I better wait. The Rock has something to say. Ian Noel Camelotes with the $23 super chat. The Chicago versus New York City rivalry continues, even though Hog... What? Oh my God, it's going too fast. Even though Hog and You Know It Kamish. Hey, look, I have love for Chicago. We ran a show in Chicago a month ago. Row, row, Roman Reigns gently down the street. I was just in Chicago last month. Row, row, Roman Reigns gently down the stream. Chicago is a great wrestling city. Says, by the way, those learning tree super chats, this is for you. Just kidding. Mid-card titles for the women will be great. Who would be your first picks for champions? I think Chelsea Green running around with the Intercontinental title, just doing her best to not lose it, could be amusing. I mean, you don't want to turn it into a joke belt. But I feel like Chelsea is underappreciated for what she brings. You know, they book her like a clown, but she's great. I think Chelsea's great. I would say Tiffany, but I think Tiffany's going to have the women's championship soon enough. I wouldn't be surprised if we get Tiffany and Charlotte at WrestleMania next year in Vegas. So Tiffany has bigger things in store for her. Who would be the best? You know what? Lyra. I could see Lyra, someone like her, having the women's Intercontinental title. That I can see. Liv Morgan is going to lose her women's world championship at some point. Maybe not this weekend, but she'll lose it to Rhea Ripley, and then I could see Liv maybe having one of the mid-card titles. We got Randy Bobandy. If the Orioles beat the Mets in the World Series, I want you to say on stream, Billy Kidman is the greatest cruiserweight champion of all time. Well, I just said it. I just said it just now. But the Orioles are not going to win the World Series, so you don't have to worry about that. Alex says, Brother Solo, is there any chance that Raw's debut on Netflix will be massively and astronomically more superior to this mediocre show that we watched tonight? I think it's safe to say that the first Raw on Netflix will be much better than the show we got tonight, yes. That's not exactly a bold statement there. All right, let's be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
We got ourselves a rare Be the Booker here on a Tuesday night. How often does that happen? Not very often at all. But you guys have killed it, so here we go. Base Beerus. Good to have Base Beerus with us. 650 people and over 430 likes and counting. Great ratio. Yeah, you know, usually on social media, when you hear about a ratio, that's a bad thing. But the ratio tonight is actually a good thing. This is not a good thing. We are starting Be the Booker with Well Done. Timothy Well and Stephen Dunn. If ever we needed a stipulation, land on a stipulation here that allows us to erase what we just did and start over again, now would be the time. This is not good. Well Done against Mankind and Kane. I hate to do it. I hate to do it, but you had to know that was coming. I was holding out hope that maybe, you know, a stipulation would pop up and it would wipe it all out, but we were not that lucky. So there can be no clean sweep tonight, but that doesn't mean we're a lost cause just yet. Women's Be the Booker. We begin with, well, so much for that. As soon as I say the words lost cause, we land on Brie Bella. Are you kidding me? I literally just said it's not a lost cause yet. And not 2 seconds later, we end up on Brie mode. I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. This is the first and probably last time that we will ever be the booker. At this rate, here on a Tuesday night. And just like that, we're up to a main event already. Save us. We need some saving here. We need some saving. Oh, that's not what I had in mind. M. Mills activates Brie. It's like she heard and like Brie mode activated just like that. Brie mode has been activated. Thank you, M. Mills. Oh man. I'm almost afraid to even choose. I'm letting it go. Okay, here we go. Let's pick our first person here. Hook. We've landed on Hook, the former FTW champion. This could go either way. I feel like we needed a really strong finish here, and I don't know. I don't know about this. I don't know that we're going to get it, but Hook against Jacob Fatu. Saved by the bell. Saved by the bell. We got one. See, I actually think that would be a fun match. We got one. See? We actually have reason. We have a reason to be happy. Jacob, Fatu, and Hook. I'll take it. I'll take it. Not the strongest main event in the world, but I'll take it. See? Now I have a smile on my face. Oh, for fucking... I had a smile on my face. Bree mode. Who was that? Alex. Alex says, let's go. Oh my God. Jacob Fatu loves his solo. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. It's got good taste. Hey, Starboy Bebop. Hope the stream is going well, Solo. It's officially my birthday, so this is a nice gift to watch your live stream. Hashtag Libras. Libras are the best, man. We got to stick together. Well, Starboy Bebop, happy birthday. I hope that you had a wonderful day, which is now over, I guess. But unless, well, when did this come in? 3 minutes ago. So wait a minute. Is today your birthday? Is the 2nd your birthday, or was Tuesday your birthday? I'm assuming you mean that Wednesday is your birthday. Sunday is my birthday. So I will wish you a happy birthday. I don't know if it's already passed or not, but I will wish you a happy birthday. And Hassan, tell your dad I said happy birthday. I hope it's a good one. M. Mills, again, thank you. Aaron with the 5. The Mets making it past the NLDS is almost as funny as Jey Uso having a long-term intercontinental title run. Well, you keep your mouth shut. You keep your mouth shut. I will have no such slander here on this channel. Power Spying Games. Bree Mode makes her grand return to be the booker in 2024. What have you done? What is going on here? You know what Bree Mode was, right? Like on Total Divas? It was when she would get drunk and wasted. This is a bad night for Brie Bella. I think she's off the wagon. That's the 3rd one tonight. Or 4th. 3rd, right? I don't know. I've lost count. I think 3rd. Base Beerus, Dr. D slapping John Stossel. That's right. That's right. Chef's kiss. He had it coming. Fuck that guy. Smoking Dried Chicken. Hook versus Jacob Fatu. Freddy Krueger as the referee. And Jeremy Rose, Padres are winning the World Series. No, they're not. You gotta believe. You gotta believe. I believe in this team. Anyway, yes, we got another big game coming up tomorrow. So, a couple of notes here. Normally on a Tuesday night, I would be over on JD's channel. We would be doing Tuesday Night Titans, which has been going very well. And it's hard to believe, you know, when I came into it, it was episode 47. We are now, God, what, 68, I think. 67 or 68 is the next one. So it's hard to believe we've already done 20 of these things. Obviously, no TNT tonight. TNT is going to be back next Wednesday because Dynamite and NXT are going head-to-head next Tuesday. So we're just going to bump TNT back by one night, but there will be a show, and then we'll be back to normal the following week. As far as next Tuesday, I'm going to be live again here on the channel a week from now. I'm almost certain that I'll be covering Dynamite. I don't think I'm going to be covering NXT. Because it really is just a lot easier to cover one show anyway. I covered NXT this week. I'm not going to be here tomorrow night. So, and I'm kind of pissed about that because, of course, naturally, and I didn't know this at the time. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to be doing the show tomorrow for weeks. But that was even before I realized it was the 5-year anniversary show. So then, of course, Tony Khan announced Will Ospreay and Ricochet. Now he announced Bryan Danielson and Okada. Now it looks like the television announcement is going to be made tomorrow. Why don't you just throw everything out there tomorrow on the one night that I'm not covering Dynamite? So yeah, I will not be doing a Dynamite stream tomorrow night. But I will probably just wait until the podcast this weekend, and I'll just talk about the key stuff from the show. So we'll cover Dynamite next Tuesday. I think that's what we'll do. That will probably be the plan for next Tuesday's stream. We'll cover Dynamite, and then we've got TNT that Wednesday, so I think that's a good plan. I'll let you guys know if that changes. Sidro. Who's hotter, Giulia or Stephanie Vicaire? I think they're both smoking hot, but if you force me to choose, I'm going with Giulia. I think Giulia she's a smoke show. She really is. What is her background? Was she born in the UK? But I think she's part Italian. Is that what it is? Or was she born in Italy? I think she was born in the UK. And I know she's part Italian. She's a very interesting mix. MGM Ballin. I believe in Joe Hendry. Thanks for putting me on to House of Glory. My first time attending on Sunday, and it was my favorite live wrestling show ever. Coming back for sure. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. We had a kick-ass show. It was a little touch and go there for a while. We thought we might lose him because of travel issues. He had to go to what was supposed to be the TNA tapings that got pushed back to that day. Then that got pushed back again. And then he was able to make it, which was good because the entire show was built around him. But we had Joe Hendry against Joey Janela. We had Zilla Fatu was on the show. He's one of our champions. Mike Santana defended his world title in an open challenge. Didn't know who he was going to wrestle until I came out to the ring to announce his challenger. I said that I found somebody worthy of challenging for the HOG world title. Somebody very familiar with the city and with championships. And I brought out Jay Lethal. And the two of them went on to have a main event match. So it was a fun night. Megan Bain, the Megacyst, defended her title against Lena Cross. Remember that name, Lena Cross, off the Australian independent scene. She was very impressive. Both women were very impressive. And I think you're going to be seeing a lot more of both of them in the future. So yeah, I mean, if you've never checked out a House of Glory show and you're in the general area, you got to check out at least one. Always more fun in person, but usually they're streaming on Triller. We weren't streaming live on Sunday because there was a medical emergency with somebody on the actual crew. So we had no crew, we couldn't stream. We did commentary though. I don't know how it came out. We had not our usual equipment, so we had no headphones either. And it's not ideal to be doing commentary without headphones because you can't hear yourself. You don't know if you're loud enough. If you're too loud, you're clipping. I was screaming. I lost part of my voice. It was awful. But, you know, it was what it was. It was out of our control. The show is supposed to go up on Triller. If it's not up already, it should be going up in the next few days with our commentary, me and JD. So, could be a good show to check out. Again, if the commentary sounds awful, just please. It's not our fault. Hopefully, we'll be back to our usual crew for October 18th. October 18th is our next show. And we have got Nick Nemeth coming in for the first time, the reigning TNA World Heavyweight Champion, coming to House of Glory. And he is wrestling El Hijo del Vikingo. Vikingo is back. He was out with an injury for months. He's back now. So we're putting together a first-time ever match. Nick Nemeth here in Haag against Vikingo. And we got Mike Santana defending the HOG World title against Masato Tanaka. Still going strong, even after all these years. So that's going to be a fun show. That'll be on a Friday night, which means no SmackDown that night. JR Vischer, Learning Bree or Tree Mode? More nightmare fuel. Oh my God, the Learning Bree, that's the stuff of nightmares. That is the absolute stuff of nightmares. The learning Bree. Devin from NJ, buy or sell Survivor or Kenny Loggins? Survivor. MGM Ballin'. I don't know if you heard, but I yelled Joey Nutella at you guys during Janela's entrance. Dude, it was so loud I couldn't hear you even if you were standing in front of us. I probably wouldn't have been able to hear you. It gets so loud in that building. So no, I didn't hear that. I think somebody actually had a Joey Nutella sign though. Yeah, no, I'm glad though that you enjoyed the show. I'm glad you were not in the third row. Like if you were facing the aisle, like on the left side, when Amazing Red went flying out of the ring into the third row. I'm glad you didn't get wiped out. That was very scary. That was very scary. But everybody was okay. Nobody was harmed. It's all good. And I think I'm caught up now with all your messages. Triller TV Plus said broadcast is on Friday at 5 p.m. Central for Believe in the Glory. Okay, so there you go. 5 p.m. Central on Friday. That's 6 p.m. Eastern. So I don't know what Triller is charging. That's on them. If it ever says Triller TV Plus, then you need to have the subscription. Occasionally, there may be shows where it's just Triller TV. You pay whatever the price is for the one event. But from what I understand, the subscription is worth it. You get access to a lot of different things. So, but yeah, the library is up there. So go ahead and check that out. And MGM Ballin', I was very close to that spot. It was awesome. I'm telling you, man, Red has been doing this for a long time. I've never seen him move so fast in my life. Like, this year has been ridiculous. The matches that he has been in, especially the match with Santana that he had back in June that we got to call. I don't think I've ever seen him this good. I mean, he is really, turning back the hands of time and kicking all kinds of ass. And we've got some ideas. We got some ideas for some fun stuff coming up in 2025 or even the end of this year. I can't reveal, but you'll definitely want to stay tuned for that. Did I do the Hog Show with Samoa Joe and AJ Styles? No, that was before I came in. We had Ricochet there many years ago. A lot of names have come through House of Glory, even going back to like the mid-2010s. A lot of names that you would recognize, a lot of names that are on TV today. Maybe we'll even get some of them back. Smoking Dried Chicken says, during the next Hog Show, bring lots of candy for the crowd. Halloween season is around the corner. I don't have enough on my plate as the commissioner. Now you want me to be the candy man? Just drop my pen now. Great. Base Beerus. Buy or sell Kofi or Ray's world title reign. Rey Mysterio's title reign is utterly forgettable. Kofi Kingston, at least, he got some wins. So buy on Kofi, sell on Rey. Of course, I'm talking about Rey Mysterio as the World Heavyweight Champion. If you're talking about Rey as the WWE Champion, he was champion for an hour. Either way, Kofi Kingston wins. Green Twix candy are back. They have green Twix? That sounds awful. Oh my God. I used to love Twix when I could actually have that stuff. Twix was actually Snickers and Twix. Those were my two favorites. Yeah. I didn't realize until years later when I had to stop having that stuff. It was a Snickers that I made the mistake of eating, and yeah, that was not a fun night. That was not a fun night. God, I was still in college at that point. Yeah, that was brutal. Hey, Mohammed, shout out, Mohammed. I am doing well. I hope you are too. All right, I'm going to head on out of here. Thank you guys for hanging out with me here for 2 hours on a Tuesday night. Not bad. I probably had more fun hanging out with you and doing this review than I did watching NXT. But I will be back with you live on Friday night. Again, no stream tomorrow. I'll be back here on Friday night for SmackDown. And if you still are one of the people who have not checked out my full Vince McMahon Netflix documentary recap, The Good, the Bad, and the Very Ugly, it is now up on the YouTube channel. I was looking at the numbers before. I mean, it just went up earlier today, and it's already putting up some big numbers, which is very cool. So share it around. You got people that you think might be interested in hearing it. You got wrestling fans for friends. Share the link. Buy or sell 2014 Seth Rollins or 2016 AJ Styles. That was 2014 Seth Rollins when he was doing his not Pilates. The hell is that thing that Rollins did? The exercise. If I said Pilates, what was the thing that Rollins used to do? The exercise routine that he used to do or train. He used to train, and I just forgot what it's called. Devin from NJ, buy or sell Andre Doc or Vince Doc? I mean, the Vince thing was 6 hours long. It covered a lot more material. I didn't really learn much in the way of new stuff in either one. I'd probably go Andre. Of the two, though, Andre. CrossFit. There you go. Why did I say Pilates? Seth Rollins, he's training. He's doing Pilates. What I was going to say is that was Seth Rollins back in his CrossFit Jesus days. And he was kind of ripped, and he was in the best shape of his career. But AJ in 2016, man, those matches with Cena that he was having, that was great shit. I'm still going to go Rollins in 2014. As far as like in ring, though, I got to go Rollins. But it's close. It's close because AJ had a pretty fucking great year in 2016. The matches he had with Roman. He had 2 pay-per-view matches with Roman. He lost both of them, but they were both excellent. Then the match with Cena. There were 2 of them that year. The SummerSlam one, I was there in Brooklyn for that one. That was one of the greatest matches I've ever seen live. That was just tremendous. All right. Be well. Stay safe. I'll see you back here Friday night. We'll do it all over again for SmackDown. Until then, adios.